The Butcher is a sort of beefy burst diver that takes a bit to ramp up to full strength. Once he reaches that point though, it's hard to stop him from getting to and blowing up a target of his choice. Though he doesn't stick to targets past the initial gap closer as well as most other assassins do. His trait is where he gets most of his scaling that I referenced earlier, but it's alright considering it's actually extremely similar to scaling in other MOBAs gameplay-wise. Nearby minion deaths will drop a single stack of meat which grants 0.5 attack damage. Heroes drop stacks of 20, and he gains a massive bonus at 200 where minions will stop dropping meat and heroes only give 10. He also loses 15 stacks upon death before getting to 20. It's pretty effective for incentivizing playing for mid to late game and getting to full power before making big plays. It's sometimes hard to walk over and collect meat from fallen minions, especially if the opposing laner is especially good at fighting him. Butcher's Q is a short line skill shot that applies a decaying slow to all units hit while resetting his basic attack timer. A very straightforward ability that buys into the extremely front-loaded burst that's hard to react to. It's spell damage on an otherwise very physical damage-focused character, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad. The slow helps with keeping units relatively close, but it's definitely not impossible for targets to get away or peel him away. Chop Meat gives bonus damage against non-heroic targets, which helps him play the offlane while he's building stacks, or he can take Invigoration to use it more often against heroes. Brutal Strike allows for a good boost to his basic attack damage after using Hamstring, which stacks additively with Meat. Crippling Slam increases the slow on hit and causes the slow to no longer decay, which is stronger against heroes that can run without crowd controlling Butch. His W applies a mark to a target and causes any basic attacks against the target to heal him for a large portion of damage dealt. When used against heroes, it heals for a lot more and is extended by hitting them. This ability has a big hand in his durability, but he's definitely a lot squishier when he's disabled in most ways. The only talent, Insatiable Blade, increases movement speed while it's active, which is helpful since it isn't contesting any Q talents, so it's good for sticking to immobile targets. Butcher's E is a unit target dash that makes him unstoppable until it reaches max duration or until he hits the target. He also stuns the target for 1 second when he reaches them. It ramps up in speed during the duration, so targets have to get pretty far away or get Butch to double back on his path to avoid getting hit. It's an extremely reliable gap closer, but it's not instant, and he can potentially take a beating while getting in. The talents for it are a cooldown reduction on impact, spell armor on impact, and max health percentage damage. None are excessively strong, but once again, it's potentially mediocre spell damage on a heavy physical damage character. His first ult is a delayed explosion around Butcher that pops after 3 seconds, dealing heavy damage to every enemy unit in the area. It's along the identity of front-loading the damage to kill a target before they have enough time to recover from the stun. It really isn't that hard to land, since he has an unstoppable unit target dash, so the best way to avoid it is to stay out of range entirely. The Storm talent adds a second cast 3 seconds after the first ends, effectively making 2 casts for the cost of 1, but the second hit is much harder to land since opponents have 6 seconds to respond to it, even beyond the ability for him to almost always make it to the target of his choice. His second ult is an AoE cast that tethers an enemy hero to a point location, prioritizing the closest one to the center, and silences them for the whole duration. Combined with his own crowd control, he can pretty reliably target a single hero and intentionally grab an important hero as a fight starts, or just lock them down long enough for him to pick them off since they'll likely lose in a 1v1 without their abilities. It does have a second delay from when he casts, so heroes with movement abilities and good reactions could get away if they aren't being crowd controlled. The Storm talent for this ability tethers all heroes in the AoE, which prevents saves and even turns it into a very effective teamfight ability in a high duration AoE crowd control. Overall, this guy can get in and blow up a target of his choosing reliably if, and only if, the crowd control of the opposing team doesn't prevent him. But he is easy to prevent from doing much even with just slows, as he can struggle to stick to targets past his initiation. But when he's on a target that can't run or peel, he can blow them up instantly because his basic attack damage is outstanding.